Please go on and get her up. And we are good.
Let me get Reverend Johnson up here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Live from NPR News in Washington, people in Ukraine continue to flee fighting around the capital, Kyiv.
Hey, everybody.
Talk about cessation in fighting there. NPR's Jason Bodian reports officials are trying to negotiate humanitarian corridors to some of the hardest hit eastern Ukrainian cities.
Roads heading west out of the strategic city of Dnipro are loaded with cars with Mariupol license plates. The vehicles are packed with people, and some have suitcases strapped to their roof racks. Many have sheets of plastic instead of windows as air pressure from the bombs exploding in Mariupol blew out windows in houses and cars alike. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians remain trapped in combat zones without access to food, water, or electricity, according to local officials. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister says negotiations are underway with the Russians to try to open up aid and evacuation corridors into nearly 100 towns and villages most affected by the conflict. Jason Bodian.
Okay, I am putting Reverend Johnson through right now.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Johnson, how are you? Doing great. Doing great. Just trying to get some other things done before I get up on the air. What I needed. Thank you. Okay. So, I'm sorry, Matt. How am I sounding on over WCPT? Okay. As long as I hold it like the microphone, that helps me a lot.
Okay. And by the way, we've got about a minute here.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's have a great show.
Absolutely.
Let the words of our mouth and meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. You are my strength and my redeemer. I thank you. Thank you for yet another day. So let's get to it. That's interesting.
Okay, about 30 seconds.
Okay. And I'm about to just give me an extra minute because I'm about to put something. Yep, I'm doing that. I'm printing something.
Okay, I'll play a little bit of that longer music like that.
There you go. Thank you. See, you know what's up. There we go. Hey. Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today on WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Want to hear your voices today. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And please meet my family, the Santita Jackson and Friends family, the Santita Jackson Morning Star, specifically on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page, and go to YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show. Everybody, please like and subscribe over there. We've got a lot to talk about. Of course, we've got legal Q&A with C.K. Hoffler. You've been seeing her on MSNBC, the Black News Channel, and ABC, as she's been giving a lot of great commentary on the great legal stories of the day. We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown, Clarence Thomas, a whole lot of issues we're going to cover with this superstar panel that's been pulled together for that segment. Did you know that although the approval rating of the Supreme Court is the lowest that it's been in years, really since they've been measuring it, Ketanji Brown Jackson is the most popular nominee in years, which is interesting. So we got to talk about that today. And how can faith be restored in the court? And what do you think about what's happening with Clarence and Jenny Thomas? That's a big deal. It's a big deal. The integrity of the court is at stake. And remember, this is the highest court in our land. We're going to be talking about COVID. More and more people, as we're still in the pandemic, but more and more, the establishment is turning a blind eye to it. And you're going to have to pay for it. The uninsured and the insured are going to have to pay for tests. And remember, most people who have great insurance, you have to pay, the insurance pays 80%. If you have supplemental insurance, they might pay 90%, but you are on the hook for part of these tests, and particularly if you get tested regularly. Believe me, I know, because I get tested a lot. And so what about that? What about that? Will you be able to afford to get tested? Can you afford these therapeutics? And what happens when you get diagnosed with COVID? I mean, now increasingly, you might not be at the doctor's office. You might get a text from the CDC, but there's no follow-up. There's no, well, this is what you need to do. You need to isolate. These are the medicines that are available to you. None of that. So once you've been diagnosed with COVID, now what? We need to talk about that. Should you be taking Theraflu? Because a lot of people now feel like they've got the flu. No, we're going to talk with Dr. Shanina Knighton about that today, about the things that you need to do if you are diagnosed with COVID. And in this allergy season, many people might confuse their allergies with COVID or their COVID with allergies. We've got to talk about that. You need to know your health is number one. Hey, Joyce and Daryl and Barbara Bacon, our ambassador from the western suburbs, Linda and Miss Robinson Cuckoo Choo and Jan Rely. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Why don't you give that to me phonetically, okay? Francis, how you doing, sweetie? Mark from DC, Linear Bob from Silicon Valley, and Andre was up there first. Carol from the left coast, my sister out there in Beverly Hills. I'm going to be heading out there this summer. Woo, yes, Louie Chewy, and so many of you. Samantha, how you doing? Everybody, like and share the show. Like and share the show. We had a tremendous reaction to the show with Dr. George Fraser and Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams yesterday, and Robert Patillo, as we talked about the situation with Will Smith, which is really under serious review. Everybody, you got to pay attention to that. Pay attention, because it seems that his award is on the line. We're going to be paying more attention to it, but Dr. Fraser has been passing the show around. We're getting quite a reception, and I want you to pass the show around. Just share it with someone, just someone you know, and then somebody else, and then somebody else. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. You can text me there, and let's get on with the show today. If you have COVID, have you had COVID? I want to hear your thoughts today. I want to hear your thoughts. I want you to weigh in on the great stories of the day. What do you think about what's happening in Ukraine and with Russia and on and on and on? Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, it's going to be spring again today. I can't believe it. 60 degrees, but heavy rain. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees, rain and snow. In the NBA, well, the Bulls were triumphant over the Wizards, 107-94. The Timberwolves will be playing the Raptors tonight. Of course, we are waiting on March Madness. The men and the women will be playing, and it's going to be some great basketball, everybody. I cannot wait. Came across this very interesting information as I get into the headlines today. President Trump beats both Biden and Harris in a hypothetical 2024 run, according to this poll. That's according to the Harvard CAPS Harris poll study, which finds that if the incumbent and his predecessor were in a face-off again, 47% of voters would support President Trump, while 41% would back Biden. Now, mind you, President Biden's poll numbers are continuing to slide. I don't know what's happening. Maybe you know. So why don't you call me? Because they're polling you. I want to know what your thoughts are. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Vice President Harris fares even worse in this hypothetical matchup, with just 38% of voters saying that they would choose her, compared with 39% who would choose President Trump. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me, text me, 773-763-9278. Russia's defense ministry said the country will, quote, drastically reduce military activity, close quote, in the Ukrainian cities of Kiev and Chernihiv, I believe it is, after a round of peace talks in Istanbul yesterday. However, U.S. officials are skeptical of the claims, and the situation on the ground shows a Russian offensive in full force. But it's very interesting. We keep hearing from the Russians and sometimes the Ukrainians and the Turkish that peace talks are going, and then America says, no, we're not seeing progress. What's going on, everybody? I think we need to know what's happening. Ukrainian officials say there was no reduction in hostilities overnight, and no one in the country was without sirens as the siege persists. We'll just have to see, everybody. Official White House records show a gap of more than 7 hours in the call logs of then President Donald Trump on January 6th, 2021. As violence unfolded on Capitol Hill, the Washington Post and the CBS News Corporation reported there's a massive gap in communication during a critical time. And now House investigators are looking into whether then President Trump communicated through other means during those hours. What do you think he did, everybody? I think he did. Let's get to some of this good news with Pastor Vicki Johnson. Pastor Johnson, every day it's always something new. It's wonderful hearing your voice, though, today as we get some good news. What's going on?
Good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. There was a time when life was simple.
Oh.
We knew our neighbors by name. Children walked to school with their friends in their neighborhood. They had recess, two of them, as a matter of fact, for 15 minutes, and lunch was an hour. There were only 5 television channels: CBS, NBC, ABC, WGN, WTTW, and later came WCIU. Now we don't even know who our neighbors are, much less their names. We drive our children miles away from home to go to kindergarten. Now there are 1,000 channels. We used to leave home in the morning and not be in communication with the family until we returned home in the evening, unless we had a phone at work or a telephone booth. Now we have cell phones, and we are one-to-one. We are always connected. With things being more expensive and having so much to choose from, it's sometimes difficult to make simple decisions, which never was the case before. When things were simple, we had so much less to choose from. On Sunday night at 7 p.m., the majority of us were tuned in to CBS, to watch live entertainment on the Ed Sullivan Show. Simple. There is so much to decide and not enough time to really make founded decisions about the things that really matter. And so we just do stuff. In so doing, in retrospect, we wish we had done things differently. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 comes to help guide us through this very complicated life that we are experiencing. And it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and he will direct your path. Don't know what to do? Trust God. If you're falling, trust God and lean on God. If you don't understand, trust God for the understanding. Don't know which way to go? Trust God for direction. Trusting God will work to guide you successfully through a very complicated world. If you are going to lean on anything, lean on God. If you will do this, and I hope that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen, amen, amen. Boy, you're right. I'm feeling Archie Bunker and Edith. Those were the days. Things were because you used to borrow sugar. I mean, you used to not borrow. You used to go to your neighbor. Oh, I run out of sugar. Let me get a cup. They might even give you a bag.
Borrow a cup of sugar.
Yeah, you just had to go across the fence. So, do you have any flour? Or what are you making? Oh, okay. We don't do that anymore. I've seen how the neighborhood in which I grew up has absolutely changed. Even during the holiday season, Pastor, I don't see the Christmas setup anymore. And that makes me so sad. It makes me so sad. We've gone from Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays. Hey, I'm all about inclusion, but I am the Christmas girl. And it's a religious holiday for me, so I feel it even more profoundly. And so, I think that we should include everybody. But let's be very, very clear. All movement ain't progress. I guess that's the point. That's the point.
I think something there.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, sometimes we're just moving. We're not we're not making good moves. Thank you for that today. Are you worshiping in person?
We are worshiping in person at 11:45, and it is now an hour of power.
Woo!
11:45 in person at St. Thomas Lutheran Church, 8,000 South Jeffrey Boulevard in Chicago, and we can also be seen on Facebook Live.
Are people, when they come in person, are they wearing masks? How are you? What are your protocols?
Mask.
Okay.
Mask.
Okay.
We're still in a pandemic, and we're living like we are, so.
Okay.
Be
But
safe.
at the same time, we're moving forward. Well, you know what? That's why we have Dr. Shanina Knighton on with us today, infection preventionist and registered nurse and research scholar, clinical research scholar at Case Western Reserve University. Of course, Dr. Deb will be back with us tomorrow, everybody. But we have she wanted Dr. Knighton to focus on some specific issues. And we have been talking about Pastor Johnson and Dr. Knighton. We've been talking about COVID because now you don't see on your screen the crawls telling you how many people have died, how many people are infected, how many people are sick. You don't see that anymore. But the pandemic is real. People are still being diagnosed with COVID every single day. But the question is, once you've been diagnosed, now what? I have two friends who've been diagnosed over the past week. Neither of them, one was told by the doctor, the other one got a text from the CDC. One was offered therapeutics, the other one was not. So I just want to know, how is this supposed to work? Because I've never heard of anyone uh, being diagnosed with a condition as serious as COVID, and no one offers you any medicine. Huh? just just what? What is, I mean, there's something about that has never made sense to me, particularly when I read a headline to you from 2 years ago when, we saw all of the deaths in New York City. The New York Post published a story, and you all can go back probably in my timeline on Facebook, in which they started giving people mega doses of vitamin C. And it was helping people a lot. It was getting people out of the hospital. That I had another very, very close personal friend who is just very, very close to a lot of doctors. And her friend, who is a physician who really does research, he came up with a cocktail that got her through COVID. And this was in 2020. So I think that we need to know, if you've been diagnosed with COVID, now what? Not to mention the fact that Dr. Knighton, now we're in the allergy season. So we don't know if we've got allergies or COVID or allergies. You just don't know, because we're sneezing all over the place. There's a lot going on. You might have the sore tonsils that you would have with all this pollen that's coming up in the air. So welcome. Of course, I don't have to say welcome to the show for you. You know this is your home. You gotta you gotta help us with COVID. Now what? Now what, Dr. Knighton? Now what?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I was so it's interesting because I think the most important thing that I can tell someone is that we need to focus on our immune systems, and that is a multi-layered approach, okay? And so when we talk about COVID-19, we know is a virus. It's a coronavirus. Coronaviruses have been around since the 70s, but we know it is a virus. We know it is a respiratory infectious disease. We know that it enters the body by the eyes, mouth, and nose. So when we talk about someone having COVID, okay, and we're thinking about what it is they're going through, that is a virus. That is something that let's say an antibiotic can't do, an antifungal can't do. It will not treat COVID, okay?
Theraflu won't treat it.
Is also not a common cold.
And you're saying Theraflu won't treat it?
Because it's not the flu. The same way you can't go get cough medicine because it's not a cold. And that's the thing. So a lot of people think that they can rush their bodies, let's say, through it with those medicines, and that is not quite the case.
Well, no, but hold on. Let me ask you that, because now we're in allergy season, and you can, and you still, there's still something called the flu. There's something called getting run down, Dr. Knighton. I mean, you can really, there are so many, there's so many things so many illnesses that we're accustomed to having that actually might be COVID, or they might not. My question for you before we go any further is, if you have the sniffles, if you have sore tonsils, if you have a sore throat, if you're just feeling a little run down, should you then get a COVID test?
So that's the thing. To me, we need to normalize not being sick. We've normalized being sick so long that we're not trying to really understand our bodies and ways in which not to be sick. And there's a lot of research around this in regards to like nutrition and prevention, right? So when somebody's nose starts running and they know that they have allergies, they could be seasonal allergies, or it could be something that they're eating. Like there's multiple things that could be causing that. And so automatically someone may go get a COVID test and say, oh, well, I'm sniffling and I need to go get a test because I think it's COVID. Well, with a lot of people that's not supposed to be insured and going to have access to tests, are you going to run out and pay $125 every time, you start getting the sniffles and you got allergies, but you think it's potentially COVID? I tell people, assume that you already are sick and do your best not to get others sick. And if you are sick, say, oh, well, I don't want another bug, so I really need to protect my body as much as possible. And so what that looks like is that simply looks like you making sure that you take into account what is it that I can do to decrease my symptoms. A lot of people will use one medicine and they'll think like, oh, well, this is going to treat my allergies or this is going to treat my cold. You made a good point, Santita. If your body is ran down, that medicine's not going to cure that.
Mm-hmm.
You might need some rest.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to talk to somebody. There's a lot of different things that can be causing you that stress that's causing your body to be ran down. And so sometimes we have to realize what is it that my body needs and listen into that. And a lot of times we don't. We think that medicine is going to cure it, and medicine is not the end all be all. Typically with a virus, it has to run its course. And so you can, let's say, take things that will boost your immune system. You can eat things that are going to boost your immune system so that way you can get your body back on track. But medicines are not going to help that. It's crazy because the American Chemist Society came out with a 20 or 30-minute film 3 or 4 years ago, and I'll see if I can find it and I'll share it on your page. But it was simply bringing up the fact that cough medicines with all of the chemicals and stuff that they have in them and people thinking that they're going to help with a cold, it's like if you're looking for something to suppress your cough, that's one thing. But if you're saying like, oh, this medicine is going to get rid of my cold, you have to consider the other chemicals that are in there. They might have antifreeze in there. It might have food coloring in there. That again are food additives that also decrease the immune system. Sugar is something that decreases the immune system, but what is it filled with? A lot of the cough medicines that you consume are very syrupy sweet.
No, stay right there. No, stay right there. Stay right there because I want you to talk about sugar.
Okay.
Because people start craving sugar, I'm finding, when they have COVID. And you said, stop. Do not have any sugar when you have COVID. There's some things that, that we have not been discussing, everybody. Okay, you've got COVID. Now what? Now what? And while corporate media are not discussing COVID anymore, we need to talk about it because people are still getting it. We're still in a pandemic. It's just now many people have gotten the jab. Many people have gotten vaccinated. They've not been inoculated. You still can get COVID. You can still spread COVID. You might be going home to your husband, your wife, your partner, your children. Your children can bring it in from the daycare. I mean, there is a whole lot going on here. And COVID is still impairing people permanently or long term. It's still killing people. So, okay, once you've been diagnosed, now what? Now what? Now what? Dr. Shanina Knighton helping us to understand what it is that we can do to be as healthy and as healthful as we can be. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Dr. Shanina.
Good morning.
Girl, I love your voice. Now, remember, we're going to be winding down at 57 after the hour, okay? So make sure you have your clock there.
Okay. Got it.
But that is great. This is, great information because, my mistake. I have had 3 friends diagnosed over the past week and a half since I got back I've been back from New York a week. Oh, yeah, that's right. And they're all doing well. And one of my friends, he thought it was just his allergies.
Right.
He just.
And that's the thing too. And remember how we talked about COVID being endemic?
Yeah.
Meaning that like it's going to be with us for some time now, and at this point we need to figure out how to live with it.
Yeah.
Just because something is endemic doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have another outbreak or another pandemic, right? And that's the thing. People think that it's like it just stay in one phase, and that's not quite the case. So I think the other piece that goes into that is that it's almost like remember back in the day you would get a bug or somebody be like, man, I caught that bad bug and nobody knew what it was kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like where we're hoping that this is going, where it's just like, okay, we're not like naming BA2 strains or getting very granular into what it is, but really just understanding it's an illness that's going around. And that's the thing that's so crazy is the way in which we're looking at this and being granular and really understanding it. It's like now it's a heightened awareness on people's radar. So yes, it is bad and it was harming people. So not downplaying it, but it's like now we're in the situation of, okay, yeah, it was downplaying people, but are we getting at a phase of where, you know, yes, more people are getting it because it's more contagious, but it's less severe, you know, and so it's always like this unknown, and that's why I say, like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because H1N1 could have been COVID-19, like the original strain.
Look.
So I think that's where we have to really get our minds to. It's like, how do I live with it? How do I prevent my loved ones from getting it if I have it? You know, what can I do for my body? And I think that that's where our focus should be at right now.
Well, you know, I want us to, I want to hear from you. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Robert brings up, Robert, why don't you remind me? He said, remember the reaction to when he ate ice cream when he had COVID. Remind me, Robert. Let me know. Remind me. Because, I mean, when you hear...
I can probably tell you all that mucus.
Okay, what happened?
1 minute.
Well, what do you think?
I can imagine that dairy probably flared up more mucus. So we know that dairy and mucus is a thing. So that right there probably didn't help him. The sugar didn't help him. That's actually dealing with the ice cream. Some ice creams do contain antifreeze or what's called propylene glycol. So that is not good in the body either.
30 seconds.
We have these things that are they're taking down our immune systems that are in our foods that we are not really thinking about. But I can guarantee anyone, and I challenge all of our guests to do this.
Well, hold on. We're coming up. Hold on. Shanina, we're coming up. We're coming up in like 15 seconds. I want you to pick up on that point. Because I think antifreeze in our ice cream is not something that we even think about. Okay? I mean, who knows that? Did you know that?
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, March 30th. It's almost April, everybody. 2022, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and check us out. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's my official Facebook page. That's the page I go on, everybody. Please. Do not go to Santita Jackson and request my friendship. I can't request anymore. They're kicking people off, and that is not my doing. That's what Facebook does. They have their own system. I can take as many friends as I possibly can absorb on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. So let everybody know. Santita Jackson, no, that's not where you go. You go to Santita Jackson and Friends, because I wanted to include everybody. At the top of the hour, we're going to be talking about with legal Q&A with CK. What about Ketanji Brown Jackson? She's the most popular nominee to the Supreme Court in years, according to polling data. But the Supreme Court at the same time is facing its lowest approval rating in years. Could she help bring credibility to the court? And what about Clarence Thomas? His problems, along with his wife's problems, are beginning to drag down the court even further. We got a lot to talk about in the second hour. But right now we're talking about COVID-19 with Dr. Shanina Knighton, infection preventionist, registered nurse, clinical research scholar at Case Western Reserve University. Carol Zoskin out there on the left coast said, we are blessed to have you. And we are. And we are. And people want to know, wait a minute, hold on. Who? Laura Bell said, so you can't have sugar when you have COVID-19? Easy to lose weight. Robert said, wait a minute. You remember the reaction that I had when I had ice cream when I had COVID? Whoa. And then you tell me that there's some antifreeze. Back up. What about sugar when you have COVID? What about antifreeze and ice cream? Help me, doctor.
So one of the main things, okay, that we don't think about are the food additives and what the food additives do to our body. The food additives, when we have them, actually lower our immune systems naturally because they are not meant to be in food. Mm. And we know this, and this is typically named like the preservatives that we have in our food. These are the harmful things that we know to be not good for our body. And so just as Robert brought up, do you remember when I got COVID and what the ice cream did to my body? Well, many don't understand this, is that a lot of ice cream might taste great, but the question is it good for you, okay? And it's that saying of do stuff in moderation, but sometimes when your body is ill, you just shouldn't have it. In that case, some ice creams contain what's called propylene glycol, and many of you have probably seen it and are familiar with it because it's antifreeze, and antifreeze is in your ice cream.
What?
And so the antifreeze.
Wait. Stop it. What?
Google it. I encourage you to Google it. Yes, antifreeze is in ice cream. So it's like one of those things where when you're thinking about a lot of these chemicals, you're saying to yourself, okay, well, if that's not good for me, then why do they make it? A lot of stuff that's not good for us, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't have to do our own homework. And so with that being said, sugar. Think about somebody where they say someone that has cancer, how the sugar feeds off the cancer, right, and causes the cancer to grow. It's the same thing with our immune system when we're talking about sugar and COVID, when we're talking about sugar and a cold. Your body is actually craving that sugar, but that sugar in return is lowering your immune system. And many may remember, but on previous shows, I was talking about how 75 grams of sugar lowers your immune system. It lowers your immune system for 5 hours. That's just a can of pop and a pastry. That can lower your immune system for 5 hours. So imagine your body being compromised, okay? And then you also, in the same token, taking some cough syrup, which has sugar in it. Let's also talk about ginger ale. There's a such thing as natural ginger ale, and there's a kind that has high fructose corn syrup in it. So it's like, are you drinking just any ginger ale that's getting ready to lower your immune system some more? It's all containing sugar. Everything or the majority of the stuff that somebody would tell you to fix your body back, it contains sugar. So look at what sugar does. And if COVID is lowering your immune system, if the foods you're consuming trying to get better, quote unquote, is lowering your immune system, if the cough syrup has sugar in it and that's lowering your immune system, it's really how is your body getting better? It actually shows us how strong our body is with the fact that you're taking all of that stuff, right? You're taking all of that stuff and literally are trying to get to the point of where your body is trying to recover.
Well, you know
Even
what?
in spite of having all of that sugar and bad stuff in there.
Matt Sowell makes the point. Antifreeze will kill dogs and cats, and they'll eat it because it tastes sweet. Oh, hey, Eric from Los Angeles and Angela. Oh, she said, now Angela said, did the doc just say that antifreeze is an ice cream? She said, please say it ain't so. Is that what you said? You did say that, right?
Listen, I encourage you to look it up.
It's just, oh my. See, that's why we're having this segment today, because I said, well, I mean, you know what? The corporate media has said, look, you know, when they wanted to frighten you to death and keep you at home, they did a running commentary all day long about how many people were infected, how many people were dying, and, you know, the excruciating deaths. And then when the vaccine came out, oh, if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to die. Okay, I got it. But okay, many people, most people, everybody, all the people I know who've gotten COVID over the past week and a half, they've all been vaccinated. A couple of them have been boosted. Okay, so the question is, once you have COVID, what do you do? One of my friends thought they had the flu. The other one thought it was allergies. The other one just didn't feel well. But maybe I think he felt he was run down. So there's that. I mean, there's a whole lot that could be COVID and that might not be COVID. So we're talking today, and we want to hear what your experiences are. 773 763 9278 773 WCPT. You can text us at that number as well. Now you have COVID. Okay, you have COVID. Now what? Do you isolate if you are living with people in your home? A lot of people have families. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to lock yourself away in a room? What if that's not possible? A lot of people don't have that kind of space in their homes. I mean, let's start there. If you have COVID, um, do you isolate? I mean, what if you live with other people? What do you do?
So for one, it's understanding we have to be aware of our space. Okay, and when I'm saying aware of our space, when we are inside of our home, the thing that our leadership, I think, got incorrect is this whole notion of assuming every single person has access to a separate room, has access to all of these separate resources, and that's not quite the case all the time. And so because that perception has been given, people have just said, oh, well, all of us gonna get it and kind of thrown their hands up. But not really realizing that we come in different sizes, different health conditions inside of one household. And so I always recommend to people doing the simple things. Making sure when people come inside of the home, for one, and this is the people that's not sick or potentially sick, making sure they're washing their hands, washing their face. If you're sharing things such as doorknobs, if you're sharing things such as refrigerators, making sure that you're wiping down those surfaces, making sure that you're not eating behind others, being aware of the conditions of others. So making sure that if you see your loved one getting worse, what is it that you can do to help them? Meaning that if you see that they need something to eat, but they don't feel up to it, are you making sure that they're eating? Are you making sure that you are eating? I recommend a bland type of diet. And again, these are only recommendations. I get it. You may go speak with your doctor. Your doctor may tell you something different. But a bland diet is typically what's recommended. And I'm sure many people have heard, like, oh, well, when you get sick, just eat some toast and make sure you drink plenty of fluids. That's fine, but it's dependent upon the fluids that you're drinking. If you're drinking a lot of sugary drinks, then that's not going to work for your body. So I always tell people to make sure that they're checking on their diet in their home. There's a thing called an incentive barometer. An incentive barometer is a breathing apparatus, and what it does is you're actually sucking in air, and it actually helps to beef up your lungs. Beefing up your lungs means that if you do have COVID-19, and let's say it's going to at least go to the worst part of it, you're at least making sure your lungs don't collapse or your lungs are not at risk. Remember I said it's a respiratory infectious disease. So if you're at least able to help your lung capacity and while you're trying to fight the illness, then you will have a better chance of your lungs being in good condition. So that's a recommendation. The other piece of it is think about your nose cavity and think about your mouth cavity. I mentioned that COVID transmits eyes, mouth, and nose. So yes, there are no, let's say, market-approved, quote-unquote, products for COVID-19, but there are market-approved products that do help to prevent the spread of viruses as well as cut down the amount of time in which you are ill. So there are nasal sprays that help with viruses. There are mouthwashes that help with viruses. So it is possible for you to look that up and find out what is available that does decrease the chances of COVID. Some over-the-counter stuff has not really been approved. So you do have betadine gargle. So the betadine gargle in the mouth, They have betadine. Some people have nasal spray. You see nasal spray, you'll actually see something that goes in the mouth. But there's been studies that have been done that actually show that it decreases COVID. Now, if you already have COVID, it's not going to help you. But it will stop the spread of it if it's in your mouth and your nose, because it's killing any germs that will come in contact with your mouth and your nose. And so these recommendations, I'm not sure why they haven't been shared, but my concern is now we're treating the vaccine, unfortunately, like it's God, and people are still getting sick. It's almost like putting a Band-Aid over an infected wound, meaning that you can go and get vaccinated, okay? But if you're not willing to change how you're eating, if you're not willing to change your lifestyle habits, if you're not meaning, okay, if you're still, let's say, hey, I'm going to still smoke cigarettes during my whole time that I got COVID, even though you got a respiratory infectious disease, that's dangerous, okay? If you're like, okay, well, I'm just still going to eat junk food because I got, I'm protected from COVID now, but you might be 250 pounds and you're overweight, having COVID just alone means that you're putting yourself at increased risk. Still putting harmful things in your body still means that you're lowering your immune system. If you get vaccinated and you get COVID and your immune system is lower, you're still possibly going to have some sort of symptoms. And so the goal is what lifestyle habits can you change to make sure that you're not putting yourself in that position? So I always tell people that those are the things to think about, even if you are living with someone and you are trying to manage it, because those are going to, let's say, be the long-term things that you also need to consider. So managing COVID at home, some people want to know, how long should I quarantine for? On average, if you have COVID, by that 5th or 6th day, now you've already experienced the worst of the symptoms that you are going to have. And this has been kind of like an average. So yes, there are some people, give or take, a few or more days from that average in which they're going to have symptoms. So it's assumed that just because you may stop symptoms on your 7th day, doesn't mean that you're not shedding virus in your household and you say, oh, I'm better, so I can just go and be free in my house. No, someone can actually pick up illness on your 7th day in your home, and that can just start the whole cycle all over again.
Oh, wow. Well,
And so, it's true. And so it's just being conscious of that.
Well, now Matt wants to know, does sugar feed the COVID protein?
So I will tell you, I have not necessarily done homework on that, but let's say that it does impact and work on the same receptors and cells that impact your immune system, if that makes sense. Okay. So it all works on the same system. It's almost like being bullied. If your immune system is being bullied, okay, by COVID, and your immune system is being bullied by sugar, because your body is craving it, our body's just going to crave it. We have like a fungus in our body, okay? And it's Candida. I'm trying to think about the easy way to explain it. So Candida is in our body. We know that it's in our body. And it's a healthy amount, which will be 20%. But what happens is we tend to eat, let's say, a lot of sugar, and that fungus then starts to feed off the sugar. So it's innately already in our body, right? So when our body is being impacted by us being sick with the virus, and our cells are trying to fight off that virus, in an unhealthy manner, it's actually relying on that fungus. And I'm trying to easily explain this, but the sugar is being fed. The fungus craves sugar. We know this. Think about yeast, right? So we know that yeast, women know this too. They've always been told, hey, why do I have a UTI? Why am I getting yeast infection? The doctor says what? Decrease your sugar intake, right? This is the first thing they say, when you're coming into that type of infection. When you're coming into a yeast infection, they say decrease sugar. So these are actual things, that happen. It's the same thing. Our body, when it is infected, is going to feed off of sugar. It's going to crave sugar. It is the thing that our body is going to love. But our immune system, we're already compromised with COVID, and then you're going to put more sugar in your body. So it's not necessarily that your body may crave it. And to his point, it very well may be. I haven't gotten that granular into it. I just know generally with infections, this is how it works. Your body becomes compromised. You're going to crave the thing that is going to harm it most. Same thing with cancer. People with cancer, sugar feeds off of cancer. We know this. The studies have been around for years to actually show that.
Everybody.
And I'm just saying that some of the stuff that's put on the market does not help us.
Well, I mean, when you really dig down, your doctors always tell you refined sugars you need to avoid. That's what it happens all the time. At the top of the hour, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court with C.K. Hoffler in this tremendous panel, and you. The Supreme Court is at its lowest approval rating in decades, maybe since they started taking these polls. But Ketanji Brown Jackson is the most popular nominee that we've had in decades. Isn't that interesting? Got a lot to talk about in the next hour. But right now, we're talking about COVID and what you can do to really get healed if you have COVID. In fact, I was reading an article, Dr. Knighton, in preparation for this segment, and they were saying that prevention starts with protection. And they said, first get vaccinated, then wear a mask, and then wash your hands. I have a feeling you would reverse that.
I absolutely would. It would absolutely be hand washing first. Then it would be mask wearing. Then it would be hand washing if you touching stuff. It would be hand washing if you're coming in contact with others. It would be hand washing even if it's hand washing while you at the site to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. It's hand washing after you've been vaccinated. Hand washing is still the single most important thing that's going to prevent the spread of infection. You can be somebody that is vaccinated and still be rubbing your nose and carrying the virus in your nose and your mouth and still make somebody else sick. So it's only one small piece of it, but those hands are going to stop you from getting somebody else sick. So yes, COVID may not be as severe in your body because you're vaccinated, but it does not stop you from spreading it to the next person. And that is the thing that we have to normalize, is that just because you're vaccinated does not mean that you are invincible from being able to harm others. You may be invincible from being severely ill, but it does not necessarily take away the fact that you may be harming others.
Well, because that's something that I've really tried to say to people. I'm like, wait a minute. It's become a very selfish campaign without even intending to be so. They're saying protect, if you love your family, if you love your friends, get vaccinated. I'm like, well, no. Of course you do that because you want to do everything you can to be as healthy as you can.
Wash your hands.
But yeah, but
you want to protect them, you wash your hands.
But my point about the vaccine is that it protects you. It does not protect others. I know that. I'm not trying to be, controversial here. I'm just trying to deal with facts because there are too many people I know who are walking around unmasked and they act as if the pandemic is over. I've been around people. Yesterday I was like out and about. People are not doing social distancing. They're not careful when they're in your face talking. They're not masked. Well, I've been vaccinated. I'm like, even changing the definition of vaccine to me was the wrong thing to do. It's dangerous because people equate vaccination with inoculation, and that is not what happened here. People are still getting sick. All three of my friends who have tested COVID positive over the past week have all been vaccinated. 2 of them have been boosted. So, look, I've got 2.5 minutes here. What do you want us to do? If we've been diagnosed with COVID, just give us a thumbnail sketch of what it is that we need to do, what it is that we need to eat, isolation. What should we do?
Make sure you are washing your hands. Make sure that you have a plan in place. First and foremost, every person should have a plan in place. If I get COVID, who can do my grocery store runs for me? If I get COVID, who can run my errands? Who can take care of the essential things that I need to be taken care of? So have a plan in place. Make sure that you have on your refrigerator numbers of doctors written, numbers of people to get in contact with if you are in that situation. stay ready so you don't have to get ready and have a legitimate plan in place. I would also emphasize, make sure that you are cleaning your hands and cleaning surfaces around you. It is never anyone's intent that we want to make someone sick. Like, I don't think anyone is trying to do so. However, just understand that just because you are vaccinated and you're saying, oh, I still tested positive for COVID, I'm good, you are aware that you can still make someone sick because you are still shedding virus that can then go on to another vulnerable individual. That person, too, may be vaccinated, but guess what? Their immune system may not be able to handle COVID in a manner for which you can. And so you want to make sure that you are protecting them just like you are trying to protect yourself, and assume that, yes, because you are vaccinated does not necessarily mean that you do not carry the virus. It does not mean that you cannot transmit it to others, and it does not mean that you are invincible from cleaning your hands.
Well, hold on. Linda just brought this up because, Linda, I want to settle this because I want to give accurate information here. She said Santita vaccinations do protect others when a large enough number of people take them. The reason I said that, and I've got the scientist here, I'm like, they don't stop you from getting COVID and they don't stop you from spreading it. It's washing your hands. Please answer Linda. Please answer her. Because Linda, I'm not trying to confront you. I just want you to have the right information.
Linda, I want to be clear in that I am not saying that vaccinations don't work.
That's not what I said.
am being clear in that it does not prevent COVID. It prevents the clinical severity of COVID, and it prevents or decreases your risk of hospitalization and death. It
Yours.
does not decrease the spread of COVID-19.
Yours, not somebody else's, Linda. Yours. And that's what we have to know. I mean, because I see all kinds of people, I got to tell you, around my father, unmasked. I'm like, whoa. While I'm here, put on a mask. You have been, heaven knows where. My father's 80 years old. He's already had COVID. And he's been ill a couple of times, over the past year. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, and he's got Parkinson's. How can you be around him? They get around him and they take off the mask. Oh, I'm like, whoa, why would you do that? Don't do that. That's all I meant, Linda. I'm not saying that vaccines don't work. They do. But this is not a vaccine as we have known them. This does not inoculate you. What it does is stop you from getting sick. It does not stop someone else from getting sick. And I think that if we function with that understanding, then we will mask, we will wash our hands, and we will do all the things that need to be done. That will stop the spread of COVID. Those things will.
And then I also want to be clear, too.
20 seconds.
That 3 to 4 boosters in, we're 3 to 4 boosters in and still think that we can stop infection prevention practices. My point is that vaccination does not replace infection prevention practices. And that, yes, your hands can still be a heavy transmitter of germs, and we should not stop infection prevention practices. Yet, our system continues to replace infection prevention practices, and that is not working out too well for us. And we see that by the continual need of boosters. In fact, if we look at the vaccination history, I want anyone to tell me at what point in history have we received 3 or 4 vaccines in a year?
I don't even understand that. So clearly, you need to wash your hands, you need to mask, and you need to boost your immune systems naturally. You need to eat well. Think about that, everybody. And not just think about it, practice it. Practice it, because they're not talking about that, but I promise you, that is what we need to be doing. Let's talk about the Supreme Court back in a minute. Dr. Knighton. Dr. Knighton?
Yes.
I think we got a lot of good stuff out today.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think more importantly, I think if we can even too, it's a lot of individuals out there that's like Linda, that I would say are misinterpreting the message.
Yeah.
It's not to say that vaccinations don't work. It's to say, what do they do? And so when I think about, let's say, so chickenpox is a virus, right?
Yeah.
And we know that, yes, if you get a chickenpox vaccine, it's going to stop you from the hours playing those early
That's right.
It just means that you will not have the outward expression of it. And then the vaccines work, right? But now we're having to deal with a different type of the same virus, which is shingles.
Oh.
So I just kind of like want to let people know. I'm not saying vaccines don't work, but if we don't work with them and make sure that we're cleaning our hands, if we're not trying to improve our immune system, if we're not trying to improve our eating, if we're not doing lifestyle habits that are going to help us, having chronic conditions and having COVID-19 is going to put you at risk for other illnesses. And so what are the things that you can work on? Hand washing can prevent you from getting COVID, but if you have chronic conditions that you need to manage or that you can reverse, that should be the focus, because it's not going to just be COVID. There are going to be other illnesses out here, and you want to make sure that you stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's right. And you know what? I'm constantly washing my hands, and it's shocking to me just how much dirt, just by typing on my keyboard, it just the things that, I mean, just in my own place. And I am like, I'm a little nutty about being clean, you guys. And you said betadine gargle? Betadine gargle, you said? You know I'm looking for it, everybody. Right. Okay, so.
Yeah, did you see what CNN came out with not so long ago?
No, wait a minute. I'm saying, well, hold on. Betadine gargle. I see the betadine antiseptic sore throat medicated gargle to treat. Is that it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Everybody, I'm getting it right now.
I am not giving anyone any medical advice.
No, she's not. But guess what? I'm taking this. How about that? Yeah, and I'm buying a few of them. Yeah. This is the same woman who laughed at me when we met, and she saw all the stuff that I had in my purse, and I'm not playing. Because see, before I met you, I had my grandma Gertrude, who worked in the hospital, and she was, let me get some for my mom and dad. How about that? She was paranoid. And she she wasn't just she was not just paranoid. My grandmother worked in the hospital, and so because she worked in the hospital, she knew the germs, and you could not. God bless, I can say it now. I'd say it if she was still alive. She would not let you in the house. She wouldn't let us in the house until we dropped our bags in her garage. She had new fresh pajamas for us waiting inside, but she had bath water, hot baths, hot. The steam would be rising. You know, she was not playing. She was not playing, and she meant that, and she would tell you, no, you cannot. You can't come in here and bring these Chicago roaches. That's what she was. Said you all are nasty up. She said y'all are nasty up north. Y'all nasty up north. Oh, my grandma Gertrude. Lord have mercy. Oh. Okay, yes, I just ordered the betadine gargle because see, I use Listerine. And you gargle with Listerine for 30 seconds.
They got nasal spray. There's a lot of stuff that's out here, that can't help people.
I use the betadine nasal spray. Thank you. I sure do. But I have to get it out of Canada. But I think they have some. Look, you all, I'm just telling you. I just try to share these things with you because I want you all to be well. And yes, I did switch screens. Yes, I did. I switched screens, and I am not, look, I switched screens. So we can go on with this. Shoot, I'm not playing. I'm not playing with this thing right here. Okay, who do we have on? And let me see. This is from Daryl. He's talking about Chinese medicine. And you know what? I hear you because I believe in that. I do. I absolutely do. And you've had some very impressive results with long COVID patients that you see at the.
Attorney Patel, I'm about to get him up next.
Okay.
We have just under a minute.
Okay, at the why don't you call in, Daryl? Send me your contact information because I'd like to connect you to Dr. Knighton and let's see. Okay? Because I have a very dear friend who is, I'd like for you to talk to, but you know what? I'm going to send you his information. And thank you for that. I'm going to send you his information, Dr. Knighton.
30 seconds.
And let's reach out to him, okay?
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's do that because I think that's important for us to have as many of these. Hey, everybody. And please, no one be on any speakers. If you can, do not be on earpods. And I need you.
10 seconds.
Okay. Make sure everybody's not on an earpod, please. Okay. I'm going to get to Daryl.
The Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We used to be Air America, but today we're coming to you from the heartland. And we are WCPT, and so glad about it. AM 950 radio, that is my family to the north. Shout out to Chad Larson and company, sending you all much love. Now that things are opening back up, I plan to get up to Minneapolis, St. Paul with Gary Hines and Pastor McAfee and Spike Moss and all my friends up there, sending you all much love. All right, let's talk about the Supreme Court today, everybody. Let's talk about Ketanji Brown Jackson, the most popular nominee in years, according to the polls. While the Supreme Court is at its lowest, the lowest ebb of its popularity, not just popularity, the trust. Americans do not trust the Supreme Court. That really, we saw a breakdown after the Bush v. Gore decision, when the Supreme Court effectively delivered a president to us. How did that work out? Not too nicely. So we're going to be talking about that today, the integrity in the court. And why do you think Ketanji Brown Jackson is so popular? Why is she the most popular nominee that we've had in decades? All right, everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want you to check out my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please get on over there if you can. Join A King and everybody else over there. And please, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's my official Facebook page. Please do not go to Santita Jackson. That's just a landing page. They've kicked thousands of people off who have been my friends because other friends are trying to get on. That is not where you need to go if you want to be my friend. Please go to Santita Jackson and Friends. And please like me there, become my friend there, and let us continue to grow together. Got a lot to talk about today. We've been talking with Dr. Shanina Knighton about now you've got COVID, now what? She gave us a lot of great information. I bet you did not know antifreeze is in your ice cream. That was one that was lost on me, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. I don't even know what to tell you. Every time I speak with Dr. Shanina Knighton, she gives me the heebie-jeebies, but she gives us so much information. You got to keep her in the hopper. Legal Q&A with CK. I know you're putting that ice cream down right now. I know, me too. And I wanted some today. I did. Let me get to some of these headlines before we get to legal Q&A with CK. Okay, everybody, it's Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. Chicago is going to be spring-like today, everybody. 60 degrees will be our high. Heavy rain, though. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees, rain and snow. In the NBA, the Bulls were triumphant last night, everybody. 107. Oh, the Wizards 94. Better luck next time, you guys. The Timberwolves will be facing off against the Raptors, and we're all waiting for March Madness, everybody. We're at the Final Four. We are going to see who's going to be the champions. Oh, my gosh. I love it. And this is when you see how the NBA ought to function, because you have the men and the women playing at the same time, and you don't know which game to watch because they're all exciting, because it's great basketball. Everybody, let me start off the headlines with this story. No, it's not about Ukraine. It's about 2022, because that is where we are. Did you know that President Trump, former President Trump, has beaten both President Biden and Vice President Biden in a Harvard Caps Harris poll survey. Oh, yeah. 47% of voters said they would support President Trump, while 41% backed President Biden. Vice President Harris fares even worse in a hypothetical matchup, with just 38% of respondents saying that they would support her, compared with 49% who would pick former President Trump. 12% of the voters remain undecided. That's a nice jump, but that's very, very interesting. I want you to pay attention to that as we are moving into the 2022 election cycle. I think we're going to talk more about that tomorrow, because that is something I think we need to pay attention to. In the Ukraine, Russia's defense ministry said the country, quote, will drastically reduce military activity in the Ukrainian cities of Kiev and Chernihiv after a round of peace talks in Istanbul yesterday. However, U.S. officials are skeptical of the claims. You all got to help me with this. The Turkish, the Russians, the Ukrainians say we're making progress, then America says we're not. Yeah, I put that that was my editorializing in the headlines. I just want peace, everybody. I don't want to see anyone else to die. The official White House records show a gap of more than 7 hours in the call logs of then President Trump on January 6, 2021, as violence unfolded on Capitol Hill. The Washington Post and CBS News have reported. That's a massive gap, everybody, in communication during a critical time. And now House investigators are looking into whether then President Trump communicated through other means during those hours. Burner phones, other people's devices. We will have to see. Let the investigation carry on. As expected, the FDA has authorized a second COVID-19 booster shot for adults over the age of 50 as soon as 4 months after their initial booster dose. As we heard Dr. Shanina Knighton say, what you need to do, first and foremost, wash those hands constantly, keep them clean, mask up, and get your immune systems together. Because even when you've been vaccinated, you can get COVID, and more than that, you can spread COVID. Everybody, let's be careful. You know, we have been really working with Team Hochberg to get you your homes, to help you to save your homes, to put you in the position to buy your homes. Do you have bad credit? Do you have no credit at all? Do you have high credit card debt? Do you want to purchase a new home? Are you trying to hold on to your home? Do you need to refinance your existing home? Do you need a VA loan? Do you need a reverse mortgage? There's so many things that you need to do just to have this piece of the American dream, which would be the biggest investment that most Americans make. Well, if you go to Team Hochberg, whatever position you're in, whatever your story, they've heard it and they will help you with it. If you have no money, if you want to get some money, if you have no credit, you want to get some credit, if you need to fix your credit, if you've got massive credit card debt, they can help you. With a free consultation, they can put you on the road to financial freedom. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. 56david.com. You got to call them. Tell them what your story is. They have heard it all, and they have helped so many people, like Chuck, who's a Navy veteran. He and his wife, Patty, have been together for decades, but their pension doesn't stretch far enough. So they have $30,000 of credit card debt and a first and second mortgage, just trying to make it. They called Team Hochberg, and guess what happened? They were able to get a VA loan. They had their monthly credit card debt reduced by over $500 a month, saving them more than $6,000 a year. Just on that first free consultation, that first free phone call, they were able to set up a system for them to knock down their credit card debt and for them to get a loan. If you have massive credit card debt, they will do that too. If you have no credit card and you're using that debit card, we're going to get David Hochberg on here. He says, don't use those debit cards at all. He said that is the worst thing to do when you're trying to build credit. We've got to get on the road to financial freedom, and Team Hochberg can show you how. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com, 56david.com, and get on the road, everybody, to financial freedom. The Supreme Court's approval rating is sinking fast, even as justices assume they aren't partisans. Maybe this happened in 2000, well, 2001, actually, when you had the Bush v. Gore decision, where the U.S. Supreme Court effectively delivered a U.S. president to us. I don't think we understood how massive the damage has been, even though people predicted that the massive damage would occur when that decision was handed down. Well, the approval rating for the Supreme Court has steadily declined since then. And so now people are saying that they see trouble ahead because this most vaunted of American institutions is not trusted by American people. But then you have a bright light in Ketanji Brown Jackson. Why? Because she is the most popular Supreme Court nominee in years. 5 recent surveys have indicated strong support for President Biden's decision to nominate Jackson for the Supreme Court, according to this CNN report. Polls by Gallup, Fox, Monmouth University, Quinnipiac, and Pew Research say that about 53% of Americans supported her confirmation, with about 26% of Americans opposed. Those are great numbers, everybody. So while people are looking askance at the Supreme Court, attorney C.K. Hoffler, well, legal Q&A with C.K., they're looking at her, and she's like a ray of hope. I'm not trying to be corny here, but that's a big deal, don't you think?
Good morning, Santita. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. You know, because I'm a lawyer and because I got my law degree in 1987 and began practicing in 1987, I have always followed the U.S. Supreme Court. I used to practice in Washington, D.C. At one point, I lobbied. I did a lot of international work primarily. But I always kept my eye on the U.S. Supreme Court. I always looked at the late, great Justice Thurgood Marshall in awe because he was someone who came from the National Bar Association, who was someone who we could look up to, aspire to, and some of his opinions were just masterfully written. But I have noticed, as an officer of the court, the steady decline of the credibility, if you will, of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I do think it peaked when they did, as you said, Santita, deliver a president. And now people look back on history of how that happened, and they're stunned to see the power of the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm preaching for a very long time that we have to watch very carefully what we allow on the court and make sure that they are eminently qualified. So now that the approval rating is in the toilet, I used to say that of the U.S. Supreme Court, and has been for some time. And there have been some very exciting moments. You know, certainly the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg did reestablish some sense of hope that there could be a well-reasoned, well-seasoned, and even-handed U.S. Supreme Court. But then we got a crushing decision in Shelby County versus Holder, and that destroyed all the credibility of the court, particularly as it relates to issues of social justice, community, civil rights, human rights, and reproductive rights, immigration. So basically, Santita, something that touches this country and the people in this country, but particularly things that touch Black and brown people. So now here we have, as I've always said, one of the most eminently qualified nominees to the U.S. Supreme Court that this country has ever seen in modern history, who circles around most of the sitting judges, the judges who were recently confirmed can't touch with a 10-foot pole in terms of credentials, credibility, and experience, relevant experience, to sit on that court. He is attacked for as well as any nominee that we've seen in modern day history in recent decades. She's attacked on so many levels, and I keep on saying we've seen the convergence between racism and it manifests itself in a very, to me, embarrassing way for this country. Mm-hmm. Plus, because of her grace, her elegance, her brilliance, her response, she has been so well received and well perceived.
Well, you know what, CK?
I think that.
But you know what? It's interesting, the juxtaposition. Pardon me for interrupting, but even as you say that, because she she is really unassailable in terms of her credentials and comportment. But what is interesting is that she's coming onto a court that actually has been compromised, and we're seeing it actively compromised as we're looking at her confirmation. When we look at Justice Clarence Thomas, I mean, there are growing calls for an investigation into his decisions because of his wife's activism and it seemed the cross-pollination, if you will. I mean, one can't help but see that. The fact that she was actively involved in trying to overturn the 2020 election results and his refusal to recuse himself from January 6th cases. So, it's interesting that we've got these persons, if you will, at the same time, CK. CK? Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were continuing to talk.
No.
Let me finish your sentence. I thought you.
No, I'm just saying it's interesting that we've got someone who's increasingly mistrusted and distrusted, and someone who could walk onto the court with so much trust. I mean, to me, she has an opportunity I don't want to put everything on her, but it's almost like she could be a right rate. But at the same time, I don't want to ignore what's happening with Clarence Thomas, because that is a great import too. I mean, all this stuff is happening at the same time, CK. I've got whiplash.
Well, I would like to, and Santita, I will say this. The of it is that you have two African Americans, one male and one female. That is, at this moment, the most conservative jurist of the U.S. Supreme Court is none other than Clarence Thomas. Mm-hmm. Of it is that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson she's going to be, she's being, proposed by a Democratic president. So she's being perceived as someone who will be more liberal. But the irony is that she's going to bring credibility to the court when she's confirmed, and I'm claiming her victory. The second is that Clarence Thomas, whose wife has compromised his integrity on the court, doesn't see that there's a need at all to recuse himself in any way. There are people who are moving, of course, to have him removed from the U.S. Supreme Court. They're just saying that is something that will be successful. As much as I dislike his opinions, as much as I dislike what he stands for, as much as I dislike his posture on so many issues, as much as I believe that he has done damage to the credibility of the court, I don't think that there is a strong enough precedent in jurisprudence to remove him from the U.S. Supreme Court. But he should recuse himself. So we can, and he could, that could lead people to turn that into a movement if he's not careful with the conflict of interest and the appearance of impropriety that permeates his existence because of his wife's activity. His wife's activities on January 6th were known to him for certain. Mm-hmm. His wife's activities on January 6th are not new. She has been a very, very staunch advocate of conservative views, conservative values. He's made it known that these are her positions, despite the fact that some of these issues come before her husband. Well, he's a staunch conservative too. It's not because he's a conservative and she's a conservative. It's the advocacy and it's the involvement in the events of January 6th that takes that appearance of impropriety and conflict to a different level. He needs to do something and recuse himself relative to certain cases because of his wife's conduct. She had the ability to control it. He had the ability as a family unit to, if he wasn't going to be able to persuade her not to take action on certain things, certainly as a justice of the highest court in the land, he, I believe, has a duty to take affirmative action so there's no conflict of interest, because that's going to further erode the confidence or lack of confidence, but it will erode the little bit of confidence that people have in the U.S. Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is critical, Santita, and finally, I know I've been talking a lot, is because the U.S. Supreme Court decides on so much. You actually said the U.S. Supreme Court delivered us a president, delivered us a president. The Supreme Court may be called upon to do that again.
Yes.
Do other things. So we cannot take it lightly. And we should continue to stand in solidarity with the most popular nominee that surprised me. I've seen in decades of the Supreme Court Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, because she's demonstrated with out of question. Her grace, elegance, excellence, phenomenal judicial temperament, and her resistance to being manipulated and oppressed while under fire by the rantings of certain senators on the Judiciary Committee. That really, quite frankly, should be ashamed of their behavior. You can question someone about their record, you can ask them about their credentials, but the racial and gender animus micro and macro aggressions that were displayed were simply not acceptable.
Absolutely.
And we should not tolerate that in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know what? Very quickly, because we got about 2 minutes before we go to break, why don't you let us know who's on your panel today?
Certainly. We've got a great panel. Starting with Daryl Jones, he is the chair of the board of Transformative Justice Coalition. Just an extraordinary civil rights lawyer, human being, involved in so many issues, voting rights, civil rights in this country. We have Gerald Griggs, phenomenal civil rights attorney. He stands in a class of his own, in my impression, in Georgia and in other places. He also is a leader in the NAACP. We have Maria Banjo, who is also stellar lawyer, stellar civil rights lawyer, leader in Gabwa, a political strategist as well, and both of them are from the Atlanta metropolitan area. Daryl is from the D.C. metropolitan area. We have Chief Abdullah Awu, who is a phenomenal, I call him a rocket scientist because he's a genius, but he's a phenomenal immigration attorney as well as a commercial trial lawyer. I tried cases with him. And we have Robert Patillo, I believe, is on the line, who is a great civil rights lawyer. He's the Southeast Regional Director of Rainbow Push Coalition. He's also a great criminal defense lawyer. And so he rounds out a phenomenal panel today.
Absolutely.
That Santita is going to speak on a number of issues.
Well, you know, that's fantastic. And of course, we have been glorying in all of this fantastic analysis that you've given us on the Black News Channel. We really hope that they survive. We need them. But you've been on MSNBC making a brilliant case on all of these big cases that are before us. And of course on ABC. We want to see you on The View, everybody. Hello, put that out there. Everybody, I want you to call us at 773-923-9278. You know what time it is. It's Wednesday, which means it is Legal Q&A with CK. We're talking about, the stunning approval ratings or disapproval ratings of the Supreme Court. Sinking fast. And yet, Ketanji Brown Jackson is ascendant. She is the most popular Supreme Court nominee in years. Everybody. According to polls by Gallup, Fox, Monmouth, Quinnipiac, Pew Research, polls that skew left, polls that skew right. She's the most popular nominee we've had in years. And we're looking at the travails, the troubles of the longest sitting justice, Clarence Thomas. There's a lot going on the court right now as abortion rights are about to be decided by the court, as we're going to look at affirmative action. This court, in whom we vest so little trust, can change the direction of American life. What do you think about that? Ask CK about it on Legal Q&A with CK on the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. CK?
Yes, Santita.
All right, I got you, girl. So, okay, so.
I'm so excited. And you know, there's so much that's going on. You know, the anti-lynching legislation is also something that's very interesting as we navigate through, making sure that our U.S. Supreme Court has greater credibility and stability at this critical time in our history.
Mm-hmm.
But I would dare say that anything that the Biden administration does, any laws that are passed during his tenure, perhaps might be challenged and may escalate up to the U.S. Supreme Court, particularly if they are social justice oriented. So we need to keep an eye on that.
Okay, well, you know, there's a whole lot to talk about. I was just trying to reframe this particular these questions because I knew that the Supreme Court numbers had fallen, and you know, because we talk about these issues every day, you know, you're always having to look for yet another angle. So that's why I threw that stuff in for you. Okay. Okay, just, okay. So hi, everybody. Hi, Daryl. Hi, Maria. Hi, Gerald. Okay, did I miss anyone? Hold on, I'm sending everybody much love, but I'm looking through some papers right now. That's what I need to find. Yep.
If it's okay, I'd like to lead with this lineup coming in.
No.
Cheryl Gray,
Uh-huh.
going to Maria Banjo, then Daryl Jones, and then Latif.
No, you do it.
And everyone is okay. And I just want everybody to be prepared that that's the lineup. And from your respective positions and when you do professionally and in terms of your community engagement, if you could, because it's been a few days since the last day of the actual hearing, but we're gearing up for April 4th when there's a vote. And if we could speak to the things that we need to do, because we cannot forget that Jessica Brown Jackson is facing a very, very strong struggle, a very strong fight, and there needs to be escalation of the effort. So if you all could address that. Gerald, if you could address the anti-lynching bill as well, legislation as well. And then Maria, a similar twist, but what kind of touch on something that I talk about a lot, and I know you talk about a lot, what the Santita Brown Jackson means for Black and brown women as well. Address those issues, but maybe add a little twist to it with that. Daryl Jones, you are everywhere on all issues. If you can, from your perspective, also being in the DMV, what you're hearing, having your finger on the pulse of it, being knee deep with the confirmation and what's happening next.
Okay.
And then finally, if you could address from an immigration perspective some of the concerns and issues, and what are the immigrant communities?
CK, hold on. CK, hold on. Are you on earbuds?
I am no, I'm in a car.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking in a car.
Okay, now you know what I'm doing today, what you're hearing me do, I am on the speaker on my phone, but I'm using the phone as a microphone. So I'm holding the microphone of the phone at my mouth. Try that really quickly.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because your voice is distorted. Okay.
No luck with Attorney Patillo, so.
Okay, no. Okay, we don't have Attorney Patillo. Let me hear you.
Okay, that's fine. Is that better?
That's better. Yeah, the other was distorted. So just hold it, but hold it to your mouth as a microphone.
We'll do.
Okay? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We're talking about the Supreme Court. We're talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson. We're talking about Clarence Thomas. The Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, is at the lowest ebb of its popularity, really, since they started measuring these things. And yet, Ketanji Brown Jackson is the most popular nominee that we've had in decades, if not ever. Isn't that interesting? And we're looking at the problems, the ethical problems of the longest sitting Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, today. Interesting times that we're living in. Of course, this is Legal Q&A with C.K. Hoffler. You have seen her on MSNBC and the BNC and ABC over the past few weeks, and she has made us so proud with her brilliant analysis and her beauty and brains. We love seeing all of that in one exciting package. Of course, Legal Q&A with CK. She's got a superstar panel. Before we get to that, CK, we've got our favorite, Be Quiet Daryl. She is not going to make you any sweet potato biscuits today. You're not going to get those. But when you get to Chicago, I can't believe it. He just finished a half marathon and he wants sweet potato biscuits. Carbs. And CK, we want it all. Okay, Chappelle.
I want it all.
We want it all. Chappelle, what's going on with you? But she does it all too, because we're in prom season and graduation season. So she does all of that, but she's still cooking. All right, Chappelle, what's going on with Celebrations by Us?
Yes, Yes, Santita, we are doing it all, and this is our season. We are your one-stop party connection and celebrations by us. We are handling all of your prom, graduation, and wedding needs. So right now we're gearing up for the prom season. We have some great specials that we're running for suite tables as well as balloon arches, yard signs, garage door signs, whatever it is that you need for your prom send-off. Don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. We're also booking weddings where we do a complete decor as well as also floral design. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. And let's not forget the food. We have full course meals, whatever it is that you need for your wedding, your hors d'oeuvre party for your prom and graduation, your fruit tables, as well as also your sweet tables. We have it for you. So don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546. Thanks so much, Santita.
Thank you so much. Celebrationsbyus.org, everybody. 708-526-4546. Legal Q&A with CK. CK, you got a tremendous panel, and you want them to really look at all of these issues globally. Take it away, CK.
Thank you, Santita. Well, I thought that we would call on Gerald Gregg, lawyer extraordinary, civil rights activist, leader of the NAACP. He has just represented so many people and a fighter for justice. To get his perspective, Gerald, what do you say?
Yes, we are going into momentous times. As you know, on April the 4th, they will have the confirmation vote for Judge Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm going to go ahead and call it Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, because just today it was announced that GOP Senator Susan Collins has indicated that she will vote to confirm Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So it's still an uphill battle, but it seems as though they have 51 votes if all the Democrats hold strong, and Susan Collins ends up following through on her pledge to vote. It seems that she will be confirmed. As you know, they just need a simple majority vote because of the filibuster rule that's been broken for Supreme Court picks. But we have to continue to press forward. We have to continue to mobilize and continue to have conversation, continue to put pressure on the other GOP senators to vote to confirm her. She's the most eminently qualified justice we've had in several decades. She will bring a new perspective and ideology to the court that is definitely needed, and we will continue to move forward. We also yesterday saw the signing of the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, which took almost 100 years to pass, but it's now the law signed by President Biden, which now makes it illegal to lynch people as a hate crime. And so that's momentous. Family members of Emmett Till, as well as President Johnson from the NAACP, and several other social justice and civil rights leaders were there in the Rose Garden to witness the signing of that momentous bill. So we see, rays of hope on the horizon for social justice and civil rights, but we are still in the middle of a very dark night, and we have to make sure we keep our foot on the gas. We continue to push forward to fight for voting rights and civil rights, and make sure that we protect all the rights we have, push them forward and progress forward. But I'm super excited to see that confirmation, and it's good news this morning to hear that Susan has indicated that she will back and vote for Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. So that's what we have to keep our eyes on. There are still others. I believe she met with Mitt Romney and several others. I know that the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has already come out and says he will not vote for her, and of course Josh Hawley and the rest of them. But we have to make sure that the Republicans that are on the fringe, that always talk about law and order and having justices that will be that will apply the law. You have no more qualified individual than Ketanji Brown Jackson that will follow precedent, that will follow the law and make sure that it's even. And so I'm super excited to watch that, and hopefully we continue to put pressure to make sure she is confirmed.
Absolutely. And we have seen record numbers of African American women, Black and brown women, and other progressives who have stood in solidarity with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, protesting standing with her on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And so this is really a momentous occasion for so many young girls, too. Maria Banjo, you have been so much of a leader in the Atlanta metropolitan area, part of the leadership team of GABWA, the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, although I know you're not speaking on behalf of GABWA today, you're speaking in your individual capacity. You've been an RA trial lawyer, civil rights lawyer, political strategist. What are your thoughts on what we need to do and what this means with the nomination, with the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, means to you and means to so many?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. That's a very good question. You know, as what we have seen during the course of this confirmation hearing, I think what it means is not just the impact for Black and brown girls and women across the world and specifically here in the U.S., but what we saw was a blow-by-blow account of one of the most decorated and experienced jurists and how she was being attacked. And I think for a lot of Americans, not for Black women, but were surprised at how she was being spoken to and how she was being disrespected. And there's a certain level that of professionalism that she had to maintain because of the double standard. So I do think that this is an eye-opening moment for so many people who don't want to believe that Black women have been treated so differently systemically throughout our history. So for me, I think that's a really huge eye-opening moment for the country. And, you know, to see someone that looks like me when for far too long we were an afterthought, not even considered, is huge. And as Attorney Griggs already mentioned, Senator Collins has already committed to voting for Judge Brown. You know, I think that is hopefully the first of many. You know, she has earned has the largest margin of support since Roberts in 2005, and 2 out of 3 Americans, 2/3 Americans, support Judge Brown and her nomination. And I think that we are at a tipping point, and I'm really, really enthused and excited and really hoping that Senator Collins is the first of many Republicans who are going to do the right thing and a vote for yes for Justice, speaking to you distance, Justice Brown.
Absolutely. And, you know, forgive me for being a skeptic, but I just pray that the Democrats vote in a block. We've always had, you know, recently Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema, and I just don't trust, because of what their voting record's been in the past, that we have them, you know, they've been awfully silent.
You had better not. CK, you're right. You're right. I mean, but that's why we have to be vigilant. Thank you for that reminder. Call 202-224-3121. Ask to speak with your representative. Ask to speak with them, because nothing is guaranteed in politics until those votes are cast. CK.
Absolutely, Santita. And, you know, Daryl Jones, who's there in the Washington metropolitan area, who's been on the front lines of so many struggles, but these struggles of late. He was there. We saw him. And Barbara Arnwine, who's the president and founder of Transformative Justice Coalition. He's chair of the board of Transformative Justice Coalition. But before that, he was a well-known civil rights lawyer throughout this country. And, Daryl, you're there in Washington, and you've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening. What do you say about all of this?
You know, CK, thanks for that question. Santita, it's always great to be here with you, and particularly with this conversation regarding Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. You know, one of the things that we see happening is just this movement, this galvanization of folks that are coming together to realize that they need to bring this across the finish line. And what's really exciting, you know, a little earlier, Gerald Griggs indicated that Senator Collins was coming out on board with Judge Jackson. That doesn't happen by happenstance. That happens because of the planning that has gone into this. And it's not just the planning for those that were preparing Judge Brown Jackson for the hearing, but there was a whole groundswell, particularly of African American women, that had come together across the country, came to Washington, D.C., were walking the pavement, holding rallies, being certain that everybody knew, that the members of the Senate knew that they were standing in support of Judge Brown Jackson. I tell you, the one thing that's really electrifying, and as I go through, if you have not had the chance to go to the National Congress on Black Women's website, go to their Twitter page if you can. They have put together what is just a phenomenal piece where they have 10 young Black girls that are playing the role of the committee, and they all vote to do what? They unanimously vote to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. What we're seeing happening is that there is this spirit that is just going across D.C., going across the country, that is supporting this overly fantastic, qualified, and just intellectually sound justice. What I love to see is this, and Santita, you hear me say it over and over again. I'll say it as long as I'm here. Don't count your votes before they're cast. Don't count your votes before they cast. We need to be certain that we push every member of the Senate to vote for Ketanji Brown Jackson when it comes to the floor of the entire Senate and as it goes before these 22 members of the Senate Judicial Committee. Call that 202-224-3121 if you're not in the D.C. area, and tell them to support Senator Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. If you're in the D.C. area, show up, because we're going to be all over the place in D.C., rallying all around the Senate, supporting Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. We need folks to do it, and we need you to be certain to remember to vote, because it was because of the vote of the Black and brown community that we are in a position to say we want to now have confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson. She would not have been appointed if President Biden did not win this election. So remember, the power of that vote, this is now coming into full fruition. This is one of the demands that was made of then candidate Joe Biden by Congressman Clyburn, and now we need to bring it across the finish line, folks. We're there. The community is excited, but we need to be certain that we remind everybody that we've got our eyes on what's happening, and we are supporting this justice, and we want to be certain we call and let every senator know that we're supporting her all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, I have to tell you, couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for that analysis, for the pointers. Now, Lateef, we've heard you speak eloquently on so many issues, and I would like to know there are a lot of people who we don't hear from. We don't hear from different communities, immigrant communities, and I know you represent, as part of your practice, you do immigration work. You represent a lot of immigrant people who come to this country, may have documentation issues, and you help them to cross the finish line. What are you hearing just in the community that you represent and that you service? And also, what are your thoughts as the top-notch, commercial litigator, someone who is also in the trenches in the Atlanta metropolitan area, about the confirmation process and about what's happening with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson?
Yes, thank you, CK, for the opportunity, and thank you, Santita. I think what we have is, at least in the immigrant community and in the diaspora, is an Obama-like phenomenon, especially among the female educated and the male too, to be honest with you. We feel like this is a nomination that's representative of not just an African-American woman, but an African as well, in the sense that, the diaspora has a holistic view of who is African. And that's very, very important to us. And we feel like, progress is not linear, right? And we've had huge progress in terms of Obama being elected, and we've had a setback. And now we're beginning to have hope again that we are back on the upswing. I think that's important. In terms of the role, as a lawyer, what you want to do is to argue to a judge who actually has seen witnesses, has evaluated their testimony, and has come to some kind of conclusion. I think what the risk that we have is we don't have too many practicing judges have their hand in the soil of the law, really, deciding cases that impact all of us. So there is this tendency, because politics has infiltrated the Supreme Court, unfortunately, but it's there, we can't deny it. There's this tendency to take positions first and find the radical argument to back up your position. And that's not what justice is about. So the fact that she has had the experience as a public defender, the fact that she has really been through the trenches makes her a uniquely qualified judge. And we need more judges like that.
CK, we're coming into the last 6 minutes of this segment. And so I wanted to give you that time. But one of the questions that I would like to ask, and we've talked about this before, you've got 100,000 Ukrainians who are the refugees who are going to be brought to the United States. The door's been open to them. And we still have Haitians who are at the U.S.-Mexico border, and even Ukrainians are coming in through the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm not making the case, CK, they shouldn't come in. But Haitian Americans are pushing, and we are in solidarity with that community in pushing for there to be a similar or the same kind of rules applied to Haitian refugees. CK?
Absolutely, Santita. You're spot on with your comments and your reflections on that. We need to be, of course, there is a war right now in Ukraine. We understand that. But there's been a different type of war as it relates to Haitians that have come into this country. And we just have to have consistent policy in terms of letting people in. It was devastating for many of us to see the treatment of the Haitian refugees last year. Devastating to see cowboy-like behavior with whips and chains and pushing them and beating them. So we need to have equal, the same across-the-board treatment of them. And Lucy, can you touch on this a little bit, since you do represent, again, immigrant communities who are seeking to come into the U.S.?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the Supreme Court has become some kind of bulwark against what people see as progressive policies and all of that. And unfortunately, because of the ratio of conservative to progressive judges, they've been able to do that job very well. It's time to reverse that trend. I think the way this is probably going to play out is ultimately at some point, Biden is going to unveil its immigration policy, and that's going to be become legislation that ultimately will find its way to the Supreme Court, right? And that really is where the tires meet the road, so to speak. And I think we as a community just have to keep up the pressure. It's easy to get discouraged by the ratio that we have in the court today now, but that's what you have in a democracy, and that ratio could change overnight. And we have to keep the pressure constantly on our political leaders so that ultimately we have a chance of having a comprehensive immigration policy that will also address the problem of refugee influx through the borders and all of that in a rational, well-thought-out way. And that's really what a challenge. But we cannot have a Supreme Court that is a bulwark against progress just because that's the way conservatives want it. That is unacceptable.
Got it. Well, Santita, maybe we could have closing thoughts from everyone.
Absolutely.
And Lucy, thank you so much for that analysis.
I think they're going to get about 30 seconds apiece, CK, because we've got about 3.5 minutes.
3 seconds. Okay. How about if we do? Okay. Gerald, Maria, Daryl, and Lucy. In that order.
Okay, great. Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you. We have to keep our eye on the ball, make sure we get Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed, and let's continue to fight for our voting rights, keep pressure on this administration, and live up to all its promises.
Maria, and then Daryl after Maria.
Yes, thank you again for having me. We need to continue to beat the false narrative about her qualifications. We need to make sure we're continuing to push forward, calling our representative and speaking truth to power regarding her extensive qualifications of why she must be confirmed. Thank you again.
Joe? Thank you so much. What I encourage people to do is this. We need to remember what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson went through at that committee hearing. And we need to be what I call, remember the concept of the bumblebee. When when someone's attacked, the bumblebee hive, the bumblebees will all swarm around, and everyone gets nervous and just swat them away, no real harm done. What we need to be are hornets. We need to let them know that you attack one of us, we will respond. Respond by calling 202-224-3121 and telling them to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson. Respond by being certain that if you're in the D.C. area, you show up at a rally. Be certain to do that and be certain to have someone vote. Folks, this is troubled waters that we're navigating, but we'll get through it. But we need to be certain that we're together and in support. Thanks so much. Look forward to continuing the fight.
CK?
Bumblebee, hornet nest, Latif.
Oh, yeah.
Santita,
In one word.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All I'll say is echo what the gentleman just said. That's really what we need to do. We live in an exciting time. We witness Obama being elected. We witness the black women on the Supreme Court. Let's take a step back and really enjoy what's happening. This is not the ultimate goal. We have to keep fighting, but we have to learn to appreciate what we are getting as well.
Wonderful. And Santita, I will just round it out with this expression. A luta continua, victoria y cerca. But victory is certain. That's what we're going to see when Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is confirmed. But we got to keep fighting.
Got to keep fighting. And you know what? It is good. It is good to see it, to have a day in which we see many of the racial barriers. They have been broken, but we can't stop there. That's been part of the fight. That's not been the whole fight. It's not just enough to get black faces in high places. Dr. King, that is not what he fought for. The mission statement of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the organization out of which my parents spring, was to save the soul of America. They didn't say black, white, brown, yellow, or red. No. This is to save the soul of America. This is to make America right. This is to make America right and to make the world right. The mission statement of Reverend Jackson's first presidential campaign was toward a just society and a more peaceful world. That transcends color. That transcends your religion, or if you're not affiliated with religion, that transcends everything. This makes us human. Jack Odell, the man that President Kennedy told Dr. King to fire, one of the great architects of the modern day civil rights movement, who ended up building our International Affairs Division at Rainbow Push, someone who helped to raise me. He said, remember this, before you are black, before you are female, male, or anything, Santita, remember you are first a human being. Remember that. Let us make a just society. Let us make a more peaceful, a humane world for everybody. We're all God's children, and we all matter. We all do. Love everybody, but nobody's going to matter until the least of these matter. How about that? You're not going to have a peaceful world. You're not going to have a just society until everybody counts in the same way. I love you, everybody. Thank you, CK. Legal Q&A with CK. Follow her on BNC. And let's make an appeal, everybody, to keep BNC on TV. We need the Black News Channel. We need them. And we need to see CK on ABC. We need to see her on MSNBC. Let those outlets know that you want to see more of CK and that you want to hear this glorious panel. You want them on there, too. I love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless. All righty, dighty. Love y'all.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you. And you know what? Let's figure out how to get him made elected president of what is it? NAACP of Georgia. Come on now, I saw that.
I can think of one major announcement that will put me over.
Well, honey, let me tell you something. Let me come off of Facebook Live.